taking a look at it when it comes to the economic growth scenario globally, focus really on the job scene and employment creation on a broad-based scale. Let's take a look now at the executive recruitment picture. What are some of the basic trends being watched in that space in particular and with a global perspective?
Alicia, if we take just a small step back, I think it's interesting to note that executive placements, the work that happens in that executive arena, is a reasonably accurate, although not quantitative, but perhaps a more qualitative indicator of the picture, perhaps 3, maybe even 6 months from now. And it's proven to be a fairly reliable indicator of what happens within the economy. So the ExecuNet Recruiter Confidence Index is one indicator that we watch on a regular basis, and at the moment it's indicating that there's been a consistent, and I'm pleased to say that, and positive uptick in the graph or in the trend that ExecuNet track over the past 6 months. And what that tells us is that there's an increase in demand. Now the Mindcor experience actually follows that quite well at the moment. Mm-hmm. We've seen some differences in the past, but at this point in time, we're seeing a couple of different sectors stepping up to the plate. Last year, you may find it interesting that in the first 6 months, there was a strong need in the financial services sector. At this point in time, that need is in a number of other areas. We've seen mining come to the fore, but perhaps more interesting is the type of opportunities rather than the industry sector alone. So I'd like to mention perhaps 3 areas. Yeah. The first of those is professional services. We're seeing a resurgence of demand within the professional services sector. Now, thinking about that, reflecting upon the experience of industries through the recession, perhaps that makes sense. We're seeing companies coming out of it. They need growth.
Where the focus isn't on cost-cutting measures as much as it was in the past, and turning more towards guidance that goes towards expanding the business.
Businesses need now new opportunities for products, opportunities for growth. They need people who are going to bring positivity into the marketplace. They need people that are going to partner with organizations and help them step up to the next S-curve, the next wave of innovation. As much as the recession is tough and is difficult, it also has brought perhaps a couple of benefits, and it's caused organizations to reflect, to understand how they can work better.
Okay, well, before we go any further, I mean, just looking at it, we're looking at professional services firms, as you've highlighted, increased demand coming from that side, business process experts, marketing strategists, and relationship management expertise as well. Taking a look at the picture now, what are some of the challenges that South Africa faces locally to actually filling these kind of vacancies?
Mindcor has found that there has been a strong demand for senior executives, and it's not that we don't have people available in the marketplace. You would have well been aware that in the last 6 months of last year, it was reported on a frequent basis that there was a rise in employment rates, and obviously our experience is in the executive environment, but we saw job losses there too. So it's not that we don't have people that are available, but the question goes to, do we have people that have been able to step up to the plate, to re-engineer themselves? Do we have people that have been able to perhaps change direction and look at the skill sets that they've developed and move them into a new industry? People change not just jobs, but also careers now. And that's an important step when you're an executive that may find themselves in an unfortunate position of being out of work, now needing to re-engineer and to re-look at themselves and to take the next shift, which could be a shift in career. So yes, we have people, but do we have people with the right skill sets that are appropriate right now?
That is obviously one of the big challenges that South Africa faces with those questions as well, is do we have people that want to take the next step? Because from a regulatory perspective, we've got the new Companies Act taking effect as of the 1st of April, and that bringing in with it a greater responsibility for executives sitting at the heads of companies on an executive level, most especially.
Alicia, what we've seen engaging with executive candidates is they're slightly more cautious. There's a sense of really wanting to do homework before engaging with a client, with a company that's looking for a senior executive. There's a desire to understand what's working, how that company is engaging, what governance structures are in place. It's kind of like a due diligence. So candidates are becoming, at an executive level, especially when they're moving into a board level position, they want to be certain that they're joining an organization where there's an alignment of values and there is in place the things that are required to be in place to comply with the Act as it comes into play.
Talk us through the kind of swing we're seeing back to competence away from independence. So what kind of trend are we seeing in that regard?
So we've noticed, perhaps an example of this would if you reflected on the European environment, there was in the European banking sector a desire at a point in time to have a strong independence focus in the non-executive directors. It didn't mean that these were not competent people. They were highly competent. But did they have the depth of functional knowledge in terms of core banking skills? So that is merely an illustration. The point is that as companies are now looking to acquire non-executive directors, and we see this, it's not just good enough to have a track record as a director. You now need to have a track record as a director, but also in the functional environment within which that company operates.
Yeah. Well, you highlighted that this is bound to all make executives more careful in terms of companies they're prepared to work for, but surely more demanding as well. As one can only assume, where executive remuneration will be making headlines once more again moving forward.
Alicia, executive remuneration is always a strong talking point, but I think one of the key points that I've made in the past has been a simplistic model of supply and demand. We have executives that are in demand. There are definite skills that are required. I make a living in an organization that helps companies find the right people to partner with and helps people to find the right companies to partner with. Mm-hmm. And remuneration is a part of that. And as we increase the demand on executives, as we require them to take greater accountability for the actions not only of their direct responsibilities, but of the organization as a whole, I'm not so sure that we're going to see executive remuneration decrease. I think it's if anything, is more likely to increase.
We do have at the moment very contentious issues at play in front of Parliament, labour laws that are looking to be passed, and that triggering quite a few alarm bells. Yeah. How do you see that affecting your role in terms of this partnering of the right skills with the right corporation?
I'm very pleased and very glad to work in Mindcor, an organisation that focuses on business and people solutions. So what we do and what we focus on is helping companies to achieve the right solution. Sometimes that results in an individual moving into a role, but we're focused on that executive level. We're very pleased with the regulations that are being put into place, and we're quite happy with that.
Well, hopefully some of the rumblings we've had on proposals of caps on executive bonuses and salaries don't come to the fore, because that, one would assume, can only prove to be a bit of a challenge and a stumbling block moving forward.
At the end of the day, top executives are in demand. Companies are looking for people who create value. Mm-hmm. If you have the right fit, if you have people that can come into organizations and create sustainable shareholder value, I think that question becomes less of an issue.